Am I on?
You should be.
Okay. That's a good one. I've never heard that. We should be. All right. Thanks, Big D. Okay, everybody. It's Friday, right? Woo! All right, cool. It's noon, obviously. I got to set that clock. Remind me this afternoon. I got to reset my saw blade. And it's Festool Live. We got a great episode for you today. It's number
63.
63. So let's introduce the crew because we got a new crew this week. The same old right over here, Big D.
Hey, everybody.
All right, we got the unit on the camera. His name's Chris Seibert, but he wants to be called the unit. We got it. On the whiteboard, Minnie is not here today with us, but we have our GPS specialist, geography PhD. His name is Quentin. Did I say that right, Quentin? Quentin, all right. Online, Brent is not with us today, but we have Garrett Sato, and he's like Mr. Q&A. He'll take care of you, I promise. Okay, we got some cool stuff to announce this week. Don't forget to register your tools at MyFestool. Woo!
Yeah, baby.
Guys, check it out. There's so much that's going to be happening there in the future, so make sure you register your tools globally. Right, Big D?
Yep.
Okay, at MyFestool. Okay, excellent. Lots of great stuff coming, I promise. Okay, next week, yes, we will be at AWFS Trade Show in Las Vegas, Nevada. And who's going to be there? Minnie will be there. Brent will be there. I will be there. And we got a bunch of people in the booth from Festool, North America, that are going to be there. I forgot my list. Okay, so there you go. I also want to make an announcement. Next week, pay attention to our Festool USA website and also our Festool USA YouTube channel, because we're going to be, I think it's next week, I hope, we're going to be dropping the new Build with Brent series. It's really cool. If you want to go see some of them now, I think this will be installment number 4 or 5 coming up. Number 4, okay, and he continues to do that. He's a really hard worker, and those videos are fantastic. You'll learn to build some really cool stuff, and I think we got plans this time, right?
Yes, we do.
Fantastic. Man, we keep upping the channel, and I love it. Okay, I think as I'm reading this board, I got everything taken care of. Do I, Big D?
I think we're good.
Okay, who's going to be Mr. Metric today?
I'll be Mr. Metric.
You'll
today.
be Mr. Metric? Oh, you know how to divide by 2?
Oh, man.
How about divide by 3?
Yes.
Okay, what's 18 divided by 3?
6.
Man, you know how to do tenons. Okay, what's half of 18?
9.
He is Mr. Metric. Okay, guys, enough said. I really want to talk about this because in episode number 57, yes, number 57, that's when we did tenon cutting on the Capex, and we made these tenons right here. Look. Okay, and as promised, because I don't forget, I told you we were going to do longer or larger tenons, okay, with the 1400 and the MFT3. I'm going to show you the setup today. You will learn so much on this setup that you can take it and transfer it not just to tenon cutting, but also datoing, okay, or doing sliding dovetails. All kinds of things to do with this, okay? But I want to show you how to cut a larger, wider tenon like you're going to do a breadboard edge on a tabletop. Do you need the MFT3? Not necessarily, but I want to show you the unbelievable repeatability with it. And then you can also transfer that to do some really cool angled work. So let's get started. Okay, so one of the things I want to show you, and I'm not going to do this today, but we are going to do a 30 millimeter tenon here. Okay, I get a little bit of tear out, but I can show you how to reduce that. I made the groove yesterday, 30 millimeters. I did it on the CMS, and guess what? I'll show you the setup of that in a future episode. But I want to show you how we're going to size this so you have a nice tight fit in there. Okay, so you don't lose any glue line. And that's my goal today, to show how to get this tenon on 18 millimeter thick stock. Big D, what's 18 divided by 3?
6.
Okay, so think about it. In woodworking, we divide, or to do tenons, and it's a basic rule of thumb. It's the third, and a third, or 3, 3, and 3 rule. Okay, if this is 18 millimeter, you divide it by 3, and that's your tenon thickness. So your shoulder here, or this is known as a cheek, your depth here is 6 millimeter, and of course this is 6 millimeter. I think you're starting to understand how easy this could be for you. You could also set up your MFT to do multiples of these. You have great repeatability. It doesn't have to be 30 millimeters of depth or however, but if you can set up your system as you do this to work through it. Okay, I just want to show you the basics of it. Okay, so what I did is when I set this up, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks. I always use a marking gauge with a good cutter. And it's a cutting gauge, okay? But this one has a scale on it. What I do is if I'm doing a 30 millimeter tenon, I'll do something like this. I'll set up a gauge block and drop this down because I know that's 30 millimeters, just like that. See? Because that's flat right there. And what I want to do is I'll show you on this piece, I want to score it, okay? And when you score it, what you're doing is you're cutting the fiber. Okay? And that fiber will end up being what? Less tear out. Now you still may get some tear out because your router bit may not be sharp enough. Okay, so there's all kinds of things that happen for tear out, but I just wanted to show you what I do to help eliminate some of it. I scribe a line to get that 30 millimeter. And what I did over here, and I'm going to take this all apart so I can show you the basic setup. We were just doing a quick dry run with the boys. Okay? But what I'll do after that, now that I have that line in there, I'll take my lead and I'll just drop it into that line and draw it across so you guys can see how I highlighted it. Okay? And by the way, I cut the front edge here. I cut the back edge here of the tenon. Okay? Or the potential of the tenon. Follow me? Okay. So, hopefully you got that. And hopefully I explained it properly. I've just done it for a while, and a lot of people ask, well, hey, how do I eliminate tear out? I go, use a knife edge. Okay, even if you're using a handsaw, you always gain a knife edge by scribing that cut with a cutting gauge. Okay, so this is what is known as the guide stop. These are your rods. I'm going to use the 1400 today. Can you use the 1010? Absolutely. Can you use the 2200? Absolutely. All right. Now, when you set up, and I think this is one of the most popular ones out there, is the 1400. I want you to notice, and you know this with your track saws, when you put something on the guide rail, you have to adjust to knock out the lateral tolerance with those cams. Same thing with anything that goes on the guide rail. You want to knock out the lateral tolerance. I call it slop, okay, because you want to knock out the wiggle. So as I set this up, I'm going to use this one. And you see these two tabs right here? And you'll also see these two screws. These are posi drive screws. When you put that on there, there should be no wiggle. Okay, and you can actually feel the wiggle in there. So what you do is you take a posi drive screwdriver. It's got to be a Festool posi drive number 2. Okay, you love that, Chris. Okay, and look right here. See that? You put it in there like that, and you just little, like 16th turns just to knock out the slop. And there it is. It's all out. Okay, good. Okay, that's the first part of it. Next, I put in the router an 18 millimeter bit. Wanted to save a little bit of time. I also put on the support bracket, and I'll show you how to set that up. Okay, next. This is ready to rock and roll. I'm going to set it aside, and let's go back to our layout. Big D, I'll say it again. What's half of 18?
9.
Okay, so I'm going to take it like this so you can see it a little bit better, Chris. Bring it just like this, and I'm going to measure from here, and I want to gain a center line of 9 because my router bit's going to cut that scribed line right there. Okay, so I'm going to take this, and I'm going to zip this out and get low so Chris can get a good shot of this, everybody. And I'm going to put 10 millimeters on that. 9 millimeters. I am so sorry. Let's see if we can get in there, Chris. I'm going to bring it right to my scribe line. I'm going to give me a 9 millimeter mark. Okay? Because I'm going to line this up on center line. And I'm just going to take this and I'll extend my 9 millimeter line. And of course, I'll label that center line. Okay? Yes, there's going to be a couple of passes here, and I'll show you a tip and trick I have on this. But from here to here is 9 and then another 9, so that's going to lay us out. We're going to take that out right away. Then we'll come back and get this. And the reason this really works well is because this is 18 millimeter, and my depth is going to be 6 millimeters in depth. I'm just going to flip it over to get both sides once I have the setup, and that's why you have the repeatability here with the MFT3. Okay, hopefully you're still following. So I'm going to take this in like this. I've squared my MFT. Okay, and I'm always checking to see I'm right up against the fence here. Okay, I'm going to bring this down, making sure my pin's in there. And I'm going to take my router, my 1400, and I always offset the rods because when you put that in there, it automatically finds itself. Now, here's the kicker. I'm going to put the router so it rides partially on the rail. And of course, check this out. See this right here? I'm going to bring my support bracket because guess what the support bracket does?
It supports.
It supports. So I'm going to have it just like that. Now I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to talk about some really neat stuff that a lot of people don't know. I'm going to get this out of the way, my stop. And that right there on my router is the center line. And it's daggone accurate. So I'm going to bring that over, and that's going to be my rough adjustment. And I'm going to take this, and I always bring this because the distance from here to here is about 5 millimeters, and I can't see that with my eye. So I'm going to bring a nice square, and you see how that center line is off? So what I'm going to do, this one's tight, okay? This one's tight. I'm going to loosen this one. Instead of going like this with the router, I'm going to adjust it, and you'll see it pull right in where it needs to be. I'm just going to adjust it back here. And as I move it, it comes right back to the line where I want it. So that's your micro adjustment at work. If I can get it back over there. There we go. Here it comes. And there it is. It's exactly where I want it. I'm going to tighten it up. Okay? And I'll have that perfect. And I'm actually going to eyeball that. But that's what the micro adjusts for. Okay? Got it? Okay, Big D, you get that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I'm going to set that aside. Now, here's where I love using the MFT. Now I have repeatability, don't I? Okay? I don't have to think about it. I have this set up now. If I was doing multiple smaller, narrower, or even wider tenons, and I had a bunch of these to run, it's set up for good. The next measurement I need to do is what? Does anybody know?
Plunge.
Depth, right. How deep I'm going to plunge. And everybody knows because I wrote it on there, 6 millimeters. Now, I can show you the easy way or the hard way. What do you want? I think we're going to go easy because that's where my brain is today. Boy, I've been showing people about how to set depth on routers forever. Look, you take this, and I'm going to bring that down there, right? Now, if I took my rod and brought it down here and locked it in, and I did this, guess what would happen? I would plunge all the way down and not go any deeper. Okay, but what I want to do is I want to loosen this, and I don't care about any scales. I know I need to go down 6 millimeters. So you can get yourself a gauge block. I've shown this in other episodes. But check this out. Get something you know is perfectly 6 millimeters thick. Whoop, whoop, whoop. You just have to buy a domino set. Okay, good. So if you lift it up here and you put it right in, and I want you to see this. See that little play in there? So when I put this here, I push it all the way down because I know when I plunge, I'm going to push it all the way down against that stop, and I'm going to lock that rod right in, and I know I'm going to get it 6 millimeters of depth. Okay, so there we go. We're almost completely set up. All right. Okay. Flip stops in. Good. Okay. Now, I'm going to release this, and I'm pretty much ready to go. All right, I'm going to get my dust extraction in, and yes, I'm using a 36 millimeter to optimize it. And I'm going to take those two little tenons and put them in the little mortises, and I'm going to close that window, just like that. I'm almost ready to go. But I want to talk about, say this is a really expensive piece of wood, and I don't have a lot of extra material to trim down to relieve maybe some blowout or tear out. I learned this from somebody coming in one time. See this dog hole right here in the MFT? It's in the right position. I can take this now and lock it right in. I don't use clamping elements to push it forward because that may push too much forward here and tilt this a little. But that's my hold down. Okay? Now, what if one of these MFT3 holes is not in the right position? It's too far away and you can't get the clamp on there. What I'll suggest is make what is known as a bridge clamp, okay? And if I take this and I position it right here, that will actually, as long as it's toward the heel here, actually lock it down just like that clamp, okay? So we're basically ready to go. Now, I think I might have shown you this before in an episode of Festool Live, but I want to mention something again. If you want to maximize dust extraction on here, I usually start and you'll see it as I do it. I leave a little right here, as little as I can. So I'll bring that in and plunge here. That way there, that dust has a place to, like a dam to block the dust. If I started out here and plunged, it would work perfectly, but you would get a lot more dust hitting the floor. So let's maximize dust extraction today. All right, let's get some power. Before you put the power on, make sure you always check a router, any router, that there's no power. Okay? That way there, you always think safety first. I don't plunge from the handle. I plunge here, and my hand never leaves the guide stop because it's not locked in. I'm going to get the power on there. I'm going to take my hose and cord and wrap them up, and here we go. Let's see how I did. Okay, now, that's my first cut. And what I'll do is, if I have a lot of these, I'll actually make a measurement here, look, and I'll say, hey, look, that's about 15 millimeters. I know I have an 18 millimeter bit, but what I'll do is I'll come over here, I'll flip my stop up, and I'll measure 15 millimeters over. So now I have another reference from here to here, and I'll just do this, I'll just eyeball this. I'll go just like that, so I know when I repeat it on the other side, guess what? I already have that already embedded, and you know what? I'm just going to not use a bridge clamp on this one. I'm just going to lock it down. Now I'm going to do a cleanup. Now you're not going to get all the dust extraction that you should, but because that dust also wants to kick out on the other side. Okay, so there you go, and I'm going to come back and clean that little bit up. Okay, I'm feeling that. Now, if I was doing this over and over and over, I would probably put a backing board here just to relieve tear out, but I'm kind of rushing through this. Now, here's the beauty of this. 3, 3, and 3. I got to go another 6 millimeters from the backside, don't I? I already have it set up. Look, I'll bring this down. I didn't move it. I'll bring it right on in like this. Okay, and here we go. I use nothing but the highest quality poplar for this. Never mind. Okay, so once again, let's do it. But see, you can see once you get the setup. And I'm going to come back and just do that little bit. Okay, set that aside. I'm going to bring that over. Bring it back to my mark to clean up that tenon. Excellent. I know some people that oversize these because of tear out, and they can do that. All right, let's see how we did. Final fitting, I'd take maybe a rebate plane, but you'll see that tenon, and I'll bring that over. Let's see how we did. Wow. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Just comes right on in. Perfect. Tenon on the Festool system. And I think I got it all covered. And I can also trim it here for exact fit. And I can actually trim it here with a track saw and get an absolutely perfect breadboard edge or breadboard tenon. Whew. You like that, Chris? All right. Hey, when you impress the cameraman, you're doing okay. The key to this is sometimes you want to creep up on that tenon. I've always done this. You don't want to. There's no glue line adhesion with glue to glue. Glue is brittle. What you want, it links with the wood to wood with the glue. So you want as tight a fitting as possible. That's why this right here on the domino tenon is absolutely, I'm going to say it every time, is an absolutely perfect mortise and tenon joint. The domino machine does the mortise, but the tenon gives you that perfect tight fit, so you get a perfect glue line. But sometimes you just need to do your plans call for it, or maybe you don't have a domino at the moment. You need to make a tenon. You have a 1400 and a guide rail. So make sure you get yourself a guide stop, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Big D, did I cover everything? I
Yep.
think I covered everything I wanted to cover. Hopefully you understand that you have to make sure that you adjust your guide stop and make sure your layout is 100%. And this is why I like the MFT, because you got the repeatability. Okay, now you guys are going to chuckle. Quentin and Chris, you're going to chuckle. But they thought I was going to be long-winded today because they're heading to Las Vegas, baby. But all joking aside, this is why I love doing Festool Live, because this worked out, right? Okay, so we're going to do a quick wrap. We're going to say, wow, where's everybody from? I think I see a couple in there that are new. Okay, I'm going to start right now. Fenton, Michigan. East Yorkshire, I know who that is. That's you, Ian. Lausanne, Switzerland. Berlin, Germany. Hey, Quentin, you got really nice handwriting. Clive, Olney, UK. From Olney, UK. Wake Forest, North Carolina. Belgium, Bozeman, Montana. I know a few people. Kyalami, South Africa. You're always there with us. Poland, Edmonton, Atlanta. Netherlands, Whitestone, New York. Portsmouth, Rhode Island. I'll be in Rhode Island at Providence at JLC in a month. French Alps, Ontario. Tinkley Park, or is that Tinley? Tinley Park, Illinois. Bloomington, Illinois. Ireland. Raymond, Maine. Jefferson City, Montana, Missouri. Southern Cal, Mechanicsville, Virginia, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Toledo, Ohio, Austin, Texas. Austin, Texas. Is that Joe Rogan? Joe, big shout out to you, Mr. Rogan. Aka, Finland. Srenazavuroslik,
So close.
Russia. Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Zionsville, Indiana. I know what that is. Somerset, Kentucky. Valparaiso, Indiana. Prescott, Arizona. Edmonton, Alberta. Portland, Oregon. Johns Creek, Georgia. Long Beach, California. Carolina, Wales. Hong Kong. Wow, that's cool, man. Cincinnati, Ohio. Wow, we're Cincinnati. Just kidding. Okay, Union, Maine. Woo! And Sear. Sean from the UK. Or is it Sean UK? Sean UK. Okay, everybody. Oh! And my two favorite people on earth are watching today. Who are they? Judah and Selah in Plainfield, Indiana. Good to see you guys. Keep watching. Your dad is awesome. Okay, everybody. I think that's a wrap. How do I always wrap this? We love you. Keep watching. Next week we get a best of, because we're all out in Las Vegas at the AWFS show. The week after that, we got one unbelievable episode planned for you. Okay, so there we go. We'll talk to you next week. Have a great weekend. I know we're gonna. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We so appreciate it. So that's a wrap. We'll talk to you soon. Happy Festool Friday!